My experience with mental health and mental illness actually started with my mom. So when I was a preteen, my mom started having auditory and visual hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia. And eventually she was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. And so I was, through most of my teenage years, I was a caregiver for her. I eventually went on to do college, and my first year of college, I went through my own psychotic break where I was later diagnosed with schizophrenia after a few years of struggling with addiction and incarceration. And so it was a really challenging time for me, and I wanted to try to make a difference in other people's lives and hopefully keep them from having to go through what I went through instead of getting the help they need for their mental illness diagnosis. So I eventually started sharing my story on social media, and I use storytelling and humor as a way to help people better understand schizophrenia and mental illness. And it blew up way more than I ever planned. And I ended up having over 1 million followers on TikTok. And I started using that platform to really try to help people better understand what my daily life was like, what it was like as someone living with schizophrenia, but also as a recovering addict and someone with a criminal record due to my addiction. And it got to a point where, I was standing in front of incredibly large audiences telling them about my story, but I still felt like I was struggling a lot. And that was until I found comedy and started using humor as a way to, still share these stories and still spread awareness, but do it in a way that felt healthier to me and felt like, I was able to kind of function a little more with it and get something back out of it. I started doing stand-up comedy kind of in addition to all of the other stuff I do. And with that, I did get a lot of pushback from people in my community. It wasn't so much patients. There were some patients and peers, but mostly it was caregivers who couldn't understand why I was joking about it. And so I've tried to be understanding, right? Because I understand how frustrating it is. Not only am I a person living with schizophrenia, I've been a caregiver too. I know how scary and frustrating an illness like schizophrenia can be. And so I really try to explain to people the benefits of why I use comedy and how it helps me as an individual, how it helps me spread awareness. I think it's one of those things where I've had to accept that not everyone's going to be okay with it, and that's all right. Yeah, I think one thing people can do is be willing to laugh at yourself a little bit. It's so hard in this day and age. We're all so stressed. We all want to, have a purpose. We want to be successful. We want to have better paying jobs and do all these amazing things. And I think we've gotten to a point in the world where people have a hard time making fun of themselves. It heals me so much because in my comedy, most of what I make fun of is myself. And so if it's not, me, it's my hallucinations. But either way, it's like I'm usually the butt of the joke. And I actually like that. And I think people are skeptical when I tell them that because they're like, well, there's nothing funny about what I'm going through. And I'm like, there doesn't have to be. But if you go through something difficult, it's so easy to drone on yourself about what you did wrong in a situation or what's not going right in your life. If you can find humor in like everyday things going on, I think it makes life a lot easier day to day. Me and my wife constantly joke about what we have going on at home, and for all intents and purposes, we're very happy, functional, successful people. But I think that's also what allows us to push through. We've been through a lot. We go through a lot every single day, and the world is constantly changing. There's so much happening, and it's so easy to only focus on the bad and forget that if you can make light of a situation or make light of your own situation, it just makes it so much easier to get through the day and to understand, like, it's not always that deep. Sometimes it's just funny how things play out. And if you really look deep, you will find humor in most situations. You just got to be willing and able to see it.